wearing this hat as the sort of custodian of this, one of the questions that keeps coming up is that businesses that are not connected to important people are not going to succeed. You're not going to get tenders, you're not going to get X, Y, Z. And I'm just wondering, is this something that the youth are going to have to overcome and deal with as well? How are you going to deal with that issue?
Well, part of the issues that youth, as they discuss these issues, is to deal with the issues of equity and fairness in the way that the programs of empowerment are being worked on. I can just say that this is a forum for discourse. It's not a platform where there will be procurement decisions made here. So there will not be an advantage of people who are members only insofar as how they can, get tenders through this process. But this forum ensures that the members will participate in shaping discourse. For example, a number of the members here will participate in the program NYDA. They'll participate in various chambers. Chulu here is a member of various chambers. But when they come and discuss how the policies are shaped and where they are going and their effectiveness, they can move with that to be able to strengthen those chambers and those other platforms where there's an open interaction with government. And so for us, there's no special arrangement that is going to be disadvantaging anyone. But going into an open process now, this is what the government, the ANC has said must be done. The way we manage the tender processes is going to be such that we reduce problems of fraud, corruption, and that's why there's been an announcement of a chief procurement officer and the kind of centralization of some of the procurement processes. But there are specific things that the youth must look out for. 60% that of opportunities on this new infrastructure build must go to young people. They must monitor that, and they'll be there. When we talk about localization and the procurement spend, then must go to localized businesses. They must monitor all of that. So there's a whole scope of their interaction to monitor, to influence, to guide, and then, of course, they continue to participate in open processes.
Okay. Minister, as one of the chief procurers.
Business, we have a tendency in this country to try and delegitimize the need for connection. Business network, through golf, through various other initiatives, because they understand the importance of having connections. The connections become bad when they are being undertaken under the framework of political connections, of nepotism and other things. But the very fact that you have a forum such as this one, it's because these people who are here understand the importance of connection with one another, with the different leaders of different institutions. So it's very important. What the NDP says is that South Africans must become the champions of their own development. And this forum, we expect it to summon, to call. And that's why we regard this as a revolution. They must shake the tree, call the CEOs of different companies, call the CEOs of private and state-owned companies to come here and outline their plans. If you take the Department of Public Enterprises, for example, we are about to launch the Supplier Development Association. Eskom and Transnet have unveiled their supply needs for the next capital expenditure program. These young people who are here and those who are at home must be interested in what are those needs at Transnet and Eskom so that they can organize themselves around those needs. You will not have access to those opportunities unless you are connected with all the people who are here, unless you are connected with the CEOs of the companies, and that will take place through networking. And that's why we are saying it's so important that you now have finally an organized formation which will speak on behalf of youth who are aspiring to be in business and those who are involved in business in order to seize the opportunities available there.
All right, okay. DJ Sbu, you're here. Yeah, okay. You're a young man who's done good, essentially. What are your thoughts about this conversation that we're having? And I keep thinking about the ones that haven't succeeded, the ones that are struggling and don't even know where to start. What do you see from your perspective as a young man in business?
Thank you once again. Very good morning. I think it's a beautiful initiative. I think, you know, what the Minister Kika was just saying is very important. A lot of us forget that for you to get ahead, you need to link with like-minded people. You need to go to such places. A lot of people that are here, they paid 1,500 rands to be here, so they invested in themselves, while other people, this past weekend, they'd rather have drank that 1,500 rands, and they come and blame some of these guys. But you gotta get out there for you to get yourself ahead. You gotta meet people, you gotta network, you gotta go to workshops, you gotta go to seminars. It's not gonna happen overnight, but you gotta keep getting yourself out there. I come from an entertainment background, but if you see me in business circles, you see me in political circles, because I want to know where the country is going. But you also see me in the township, you see me in schools, because I'm getting myself out there, I'm getting myself involved, and that's what I'd like to encourage a lot of our brothers and sisters out there. I represent an organization called Leadership 2020, and I've dedicated my career to assisting other people, but also to promote leadership and entrepreneurship. And through our partnership with the Big Break Legacy, we've just launched the South African Youth Entrepreneurship Fund. And, you know, we'd like to encourage a lot of young people out there to go to our website, which is www.SAYEF, which is the Youth Entrepreneurship Fund, SAYEF.co.za, and find out about opportunities on how they can get into business and learn while paying a very minimal rate at a little over 100 rands, and be trained about entrepreneurship, find out about opportunities. But I just would like to encourage a lot of our brothers and sisters out there to get themselves out there. And the platform like the PYB, I'm really honored to be a part of it. And I'd like to encourage a whole lot of other young people that run small businesses to be a part of these movements, so they get to get the information first and get themselves ahead and grow their businesses.
All right, okay, thank you very much indeed. One question that keeps coming through quite a bit, and maybe I get a very brief comment from all of you, maybe even. Abraham Mashishi says, the ANC-led government needs to address the funding strategy. Small business can't grow without funding mechanism. Minister, please help. And this is going to be the big, no matter what we talk about, no matter what we discuss, at the end of the day, funding is a big issue. Let's start with you, Sandile, as private sector. We've got these young people, great ideas. How are we going to fund them? Because the structures that are there don't have enough cash, I don't think, or there's something that they're not able to access, whether it's they don't have security to approach commercial banks, etc., etc. How do we overcome this funding question?
Well, there's absolutely no doubt that that question is on point. The poor access to funding for young people, for SMMEs, for business in general, is a bugbear that bedevils entrepreneurs generally. And specifically young people, it's even worse when you have a poor background, where you don't have rich uncles and parents who can offer their assets as surety when you're borrowing. The fact that the NEF, for example, is short of capital to roll out creates a difficulty. But most importantly, you know, the private sector financial services charter, it's not visible what they're doing really to meet this enormous challenge. We believe, from the Black Business Council in particular, that the banks have got to come to the party and create massive funds that will advance funding to SMMEs and emerging businesses on different sets of criteria other than what sort of security are you offering. Give us a detailed business plan. Most of the successful businesses are the ones where the business plan was not detailed upfront, but where the entrepreneurial prowess was believed and trusted, and capital followed that. So we believe that organized business, especially banks, need to come to the party. I believe that they are failing this country.
All right, so a quick comment from you. I mean, you've got a business that's off the ground, so you had your ducks in a row, but you know, and I know you know, many businesses that have failed. So we can give them money, but there's got to be more to that, I guess, because a lot of these businesses, I think something like 75% of them are going to fail within 5 years. How do we stop that?
Capacitating youth in specialized sectors is very important, because years funding, it's one major problem currently, but again, we need to capacitate and know your product, know the business that you want to go into, and take it seriously, because it starts with you at the end of the day. We as South Africans, we must drive our purpose and our destiny. So this is a vehicle where you get access to finance, which we're really pleading to government to assist a lot in that. And also capacity building is very important. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so again, funding. Minister Gigaba, I want to chat to you as well about that. There's not enough money. What is the solution? And also the kids, the young people that we give them, as we say, there's flaws in business plans. Skills is another big issue. They don't have the skills to be able to run with the cash that we give them, but there's a shortage. So how do we deal with this?
There's actually enough money. We shouldn't really delude ourselves. There's enough money. What we need is to be innovative about how we avail it. Take Transnet, for example, working with the IDC, partnering with Anglo-American Zimele, a state-owned company, a state-owned development finance institution, and a private sector company. They came together, established a 100 million rand plus 175 million rand Khudisa fund to provide funding to those businesses that get contracts from Transnet's build or capital expenditure program. That's what we want our state-owned companies to do. Not only to say we will give you a contract, we will advertise a contract, whoever has the money must access this money, but go a step further. Take the risk, invest in ensuring that the black businesses, the women-owned businesses, the youth-owned businesses that state policy says must get businesses in your programs, must actually be provided with the funding, amongst others, by yourself, so that they are able to thrive. So it can be done. The money is there. We need to be bold, to take the risks, to be innovative about how we make that money available and assist people to access that money by availing as much information as possible.
Okay, I think your phone's going to be ringing off the hook now that you've said there's lots of money. But
I want to come in.
Yeah.
Firstly, I think there is the truth in the statement being made by the caller. And secondly, I want to say that the financial institutions are not doing enough to support the small business development, youth business development, or even female women-led kind of businesses. They think they're a high risk, and they are the ones who need to be doing a lot more. Private sector needs to be working together, financial institutions and government, and focus on this area, because there is no country that can succeed unless we've got a dedicated and focused approach on the financing. It is risky, but if you're building the country, you must understand the risk. How much is involved in building the country and these entrepreneurs. And so I hope that this youth will sit and focus on that issue and make a very strong plea on that one.
But if we consider the failure rate, the number of businesses that are going to fail, just because that's the nature of the game, as a private lender, as a bank, surely that is something I have to consider. I've got shareholders, and I need to stay in business, and I can't fund things that I think are not going to work.
No, but I think the packaging of a lot of these programs, of these deals, must take into account that young people must be included as part of a normal process of doing a deal. And therefore, as part of how you are funding your deal, how many young people are going to empower through that process. But also there are other opportunities that can be looked at. For example, other tax incentives that can be built into supporting youth so that you can actually, by financing those young SMMEs or youth-led businesses, you can then have a tax-related incentive. I think there are lots of opportunities, but to fear to try to support the young people and to try and support SMMEs is actually taking the country back. We need more and more of entrepreneurs. And the culture of entrepreneurship has not developed pretty much because it was legislated against, and to actually move to the next era, you need more money and you need to take more risk. And I think that it is correct. That's one of the most important issues.
All right. Table number 10, we'll find Granny Magwete. Table number 10, if you could stand up with. Yeah, all right. Microphone at the front here. Table number 4. Sorry.
Thank you, Peter. I represent the Northwest Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industries, and my question is directed to Minister Gigaba. What is the current value of youth procurement in SIPs and across SOEs? Thank you, Peter.
Okay. In fact, what I'm going to do, with your permission, I'm going to ask Zweli Tryon to stand up and ask her question as well, because they're kind of related, and it's to the same person as well. So if I could ask you to ask your question as well, Zweli.
Thank you very much. My question is, how is current state procurement and its architecture geared to deliver to mainstream youth in business today? Thank you.
Okay. So, Minister, those two questions?
Thank you very much. I think with regard to the first question, I would need to go dig into it. I wouldn't know the answer of by heart, because in various organizations, for example, at ESCOM, during the past financial year, they would have spent about 5 billion rand on youth-owned businesses, on youth procurement. But you're sitting next to a board member of ESCOM. I think you need to engage her. And at Transnet, it would be around the same figure or even lesser. But I would need to just delve into it a bit to come up with the total figure. That would include the development finance institutions. With regard to state procurement and how they target young people, it is in the policy. I think what we lack at the present, what we've been lacking all along, are clear policy statements from government that say you must set aside a certain percentage of your procurement for youth-owned businesses. We've begun to see that happening with a number of procurements by state-owned companies, and we are now that it's going to be in the next policy directive of the fifth administration, ANC-led. We are going to see an increase in state procurement targeting youth-owned businesses, but as Brian Molefe said in Cape Town on Thursday, we need engineers, we need serious businesses, not small-time businesses, important as they are, because every business is important. 75% of the procurement by the state in terms of government departments and state-owned companies must be localized. But we need young people to look at serious businesses to answer the difficult questions that our infrastructure build program needs, so that we can see you providing boilers and other types of such big solutions to state-owned companies. For that to happen, the Progressive Youth in Business must engage with the Supplier Development Association so that you understand the supply needs of the state-owned companies which are linked to their capital investment programs.
I'm going to ask a question again that I asked earlier, because I think it keeps coming up, and people come to me as if I've got access to people, and they say, Peter, how do I get to this people? How do I get to these guys? I watch this thing on TV, and they talk about this and this fund and this, but they just don't know how to get to these initiatives, these programs. How do they do it?
One of the ways is to read newspapers, the media, to use the internet. Transnet, for example, has launched an enterprise development hub. You don't need to know Brian Molefe in order to access it. You just need to go to Carlton Center on Commissioner Street, walk into the Enterprise Development Hub. You'll find it's an integrated hub which also includes SARS, so that in terms of the development of your business plan, you already have SARS integrated into the front-end planning of your program. So that you don't default on your taxes. So you know, it's those things. We need to pay a great deal of attention as a country. Sbu said this earlier. We need to pay a great deal of attention attending things which are going to advance our lives, the workshops, the seminars, following the news, surfing the internet in order to access this information. Because not everything, you will not get everything simply by following Brian Dames or Brian Mulifes around, and certainly not by following Minister Gigaba, because I'm only involved in policy making and shareholder management. But there are people who are responsible for these things. Their information is accessible on all sorts of social forums. If you go to Twitter now, you will find the Transnet, the ESCOM Twitter handles. Talk to them, engage them. They will give you the information you need.
All right, Mike Vusi Sibia. I think this is a related question. Table 22. Mike Sibia.
Yeah, I think my question has been partly addressed, but it's just to say that moving from a small company to a bigger thing. For example, if you were, like the lady said, being a young company supplying stationery to a mine, and to move to supplying earth-moving equipment sometimes is a challenge. Business Progressive Forum, is there a way that there can be support structures between the members so that we can grow together?
Okay. I'm going to ask, Sandile, and also I want a comment from you, Tsulu, because you're going to be on the ground as well. How does this thing work in the way that he's asked? But let's start with you, Sandile.
You see, there's a lot of stigma being SMME, it seems. There shouldn't be stigma being in the SMME sector. But it's not a bad reflection on young people that they resent being SMMEs. It's possibly a reflection on the entire system, the manner in which South African businesses organize generally. But what really encourages me is the fact that as part of the election manifesto and consultations that the ANC has had with various constituencies, including ourselves, the Black Business Council, there's this general commitment from the ANC that there's got to be some form, whether it's a standalone ministry, whether it's a standalone SOE that will focus on SMEs, because they've got to be an integral part of South African business. Young people must be proud of being part of SMMEs, because SMMEs are the biggest employers, they're the engines for job creation and for economic growth, not just in South Africa, but globally. So it's very important that SMMEs receive the particular attention. Another very important encouraging point was what was mentioned by the President in Richards Bay some 3 weeks ago, where he said the main thrust and the focus of the next administration will be on the creation of black industrialists. And therefore, these young black suppliers of stationery who want to emerge and become the suppliers of bogies and heavy engineering equipment need to know that there's an administration that cares for their needs, and that's very encouraging.
Okay, so if you could just comment on how this PYB is going to work. I mean, are there going to be meetings in town halls? What happens? How does this thing come together?
It starts by ensuring that you join the PYB. Like you all know that I'm from the Northern Cape. This is not a national forum. It also going to be decentralized to provinces also, which will be able to, if you join the PYB, will be able to assist also in terms of engaging at the provincial level and also at the local government also. So it's very vital that we join so that we can have one voice collectively and go collectively and speak to the private sector and also relate information to the government also.
Okay, all right. Table number 2, Tsepo, is it light? Ish, I can't read your writing. Tsepo, if you could stand up and decipher your surname for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Stand up.
My name is Tsepo Ditedu.
Oh, okay.
Ke Mosotho ntate. All right.
Kerebo.
I just want to sort myself out here. Okay. I serve I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a young person, and I also serve in the structures of Gauteng Province Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industries. And I must actually say that, to begin with, that in my belief, I think that the ANC-led government has done a lot to make a young person such as myself, who is the son of a cashier, to be able to run a successful business. I then think, and this is to Dr. Mkhize, that there is a lot that still needs to be done. And Mr. Zungu has mentioned that the current economic landscape still reflects a lot of what the old era used to look like. And in myself being a young person in business, I actually think that some of the things that are problematic is our policies. I think they're ambiguous. As an example, the triple PFA and the triple BEE and localization, if you try to decipher that, I promise you, you'll grow gray hair. And then the other issue is that I still don't know why is it that we do not come out boldly talking about set-asides for young businesses. And then the other thing, together with that, is the issue of youth fund. Because normally you find that, yes, Minister Gigaba is talking about Transnet. I work and I get business from Transnet. They give you a job and then you cannot finance it. And that's the biggest problem that some of us are actually facing. So I think that if we could be able to untangle this ambiguity, for one, that would actually go a long way for people like myself. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. TG?
Now, firstly, let me say the issue that's been raised about how the PYP excuse me, should work, it must also take the concerns of the youth in business and try and help to find information so that the issue that Minister is raising, to say if you ask a question, but how do I access Transnet, then they say, look, you should go to such and such, you can tweet here, you can go to this internet and so on, just to facilitate for those who have a challenge. The other issue that I think becomes important, starting with this progressive business forum, is to streamline it and into various sectors so that when there are people who are interested in a particular sector, they can meet face-to-face and interact and network with those who are in that particular sector and share their views and concerns. I think the point that's been made, Minister was talking about connections, and I think Sbu was raising the same issue. It's more about networking. How do we help to make people to network with the sectors of the economy where they are interested? And that would be the other issue. I would imagine, for example, that the point that has been raised by the last speaker on the issue of the conflict between the triple PFA and the PPPEE is actually a reality. There's been instances where we have said, when I worked in government, and we said, look, we're going to put set-asides here, and then you find that there's a conflict between Treasury, and that the issue may even take you to court to say this is not according to the Constitution. But I believe it's a way the thing gets done. If there is followed in a particular legislative approach, you can actually get to that point. It's just a matter of how to make sure it gets done and it remains fair, as it were. So I would still say that these forums are able, the forum would be able to pick up those thorny ones and focus the leadership, policymakers, to how to resolve them using the experience of the young people.
All right, okay, we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue to unpack this. We'll be in the last half an hour, so let's get to your tweets and also to the questions here about youth in business and participating in the mainstream economy. Stay with us. Okay.